Can we talk about more theatrics?
Okay.
Please.
I want to get into this type of these
These people.
theatrics. Can we get
Who's
into this?
who's
This
worse
is an
built? Derrick Jaxn or what's his name from Love and Marriage? Marceau. Marceau.
Oh,
ooh.
Derrick
Big back or
Jackson is
big
worse.
arm? Which one?
Derrick
I,
Jackson is
for
worse.
me, it's gonna be Marceau.
Really?
Yeah, Marceau gives sloppy body.
Oh, well,
Derek just
yeah, but
gives
Jesus.
giant.
Yeah, I'm looking at these arms and these shoulders, like, oh my, like they're an extension of his neck, like he's a dinosaur or some
Good.
shit. Like,
Rawr.
my God, take a break from the upper body days, my dude. Lean it
Oh,
out.
can you breathe? Embarrassing.
Oh,
Embarrassing.
Lord.
It's not as embarrassing as the interview he did recently. So I
Yikes.
want us to get into this interview that he did. Oh, well, first of all, he's on the tour, I personally feel, with a lot of different interviews. So he's doing one with Dear Wifey podcast. So we're going to check out that clip. Bondi sent us something earlier today where he's doing an interview with Willie Moore. And I'm like, God damn. So this girl did one interview, and here you are on a press tour. But let's get into what Derrick had to say. Let me go ahead and get that on the screen.
Have aggressive energy towards a woman, except in intimacy. And so how I would express my affection oftentimes was aggressive. Like I want to pick her up.
Yeah.
I don't just kiss her. I pin her up against the wall, put my hand around. I'm not trying to get graphic.
Yeah.
There's context here. So I,
I know what you're talking
come
about.
up behind her and hug on her, kind of aggressive. But that would make her really, really shut down. I ain't never been so sensitive to rejection because we all get rejected, but this the first time I felt that. And what felt safer was to go out and at least have friendships with other girls. Just the conversation felt like receptiveness, like acceptance again.
Mm-hmm.
But those loose boundaries turned into no boundaries. So, if we continued to clash and she continued to pull away or what have you, and I'm not getting no answers or whatever, I'm especially in my prideful state, I'm thinking, man, she got me effed up. So I'm over here doing the right thing and she over here acting like I ain't nothing. So now there's a party tonight or there's a girl on campus and then she got her own dorm room. And that's whenever I started messing around.
Which is interesting. Now I realize something. You were trying to be on the straight and narrow and that aggressive personality that you had, because she told me, or she told us on the podcast that she had experienced a rape 2 weeks before y'all met.
Everything that happened that was really painful was really one long repetitive pattern.
Right.
Me feeling rejected for this, that, and the other. And she handles, becoming okay again a certain way. But I didn't know certain forms of affection that were natural to me just felt scary to her, put her back in a certain space where, certain things that happen. So, yeah.
And that's so interesting. It's like, I'm getting understanding. It's like you have this woman who has experienced this huge violation of her body, her soul, her spirit, this brokenness. She meets this guy who she says she just loved the mess. She loved your dirty draws. You're wanting to show your affection. You grabbing her by her neck. You being aggressive physically, from a sexual standpoint. She's getting nervous. She's getting triggered on all levels. Don't even realize that she's being triggered like this. She's closing up rejection to you because you've experienced that growing up. Mom no longer is kissing you and tucking you in bed at night, rejection. So now you're like, well, now I'm going to go self-medicate. I have this history of looking at porn, and now the way I self-medicate is watching this. So now I'm going to do the outward extension of that.
Yeah.
Now I'm over here hanging out with girls. One thing leads to another. Now you over here smashing. Now it's triggering her. How did she ever find out when you first cheated on her?
I don't have aggressive energy towards a woman.
All right, so y'all just pretty much heard the cap or the bullshit that was coming out of Derrick's mouth. I'm not featuring Derrick because I do feel like he has, as I said earlier, the gift of gab. He knows how to package up his stuff. I feel like he primarily was making her the problem. It seems like because, and I feel like a lot of men say this in relationships, you weren't showing me affection. You weren't doing this for me. You weren't doing that for
You
me.
weren't
And this
giving
is
me
the
head.
reason why. Is it, come on,
Martell.
okay, you weren't doing these things is the reason why I went out instead of trying to actually sit down and like communicate. I was thinking to myself that I probably shouldn't hold that much against him, considering the fact that they were like in college and they were like 20 years old, and a lot of times you're not thinking about that, but you also said that you were so in love and you felt like she was the one. So if you felt like she was so the one, then you would have wanted to try to at least communicate and figure out what's going on, and also not just be out here fool out line with these other women. I don't be understanding. If that's what you want to do, just stay single. I mean, college was your playground. You ain't have to wife this girl up.
I'm gonna tell
Like,
you what it was.
what was
I
it?
think he saw the victim in her. He saw that she was going to be the maid, the mattress, and the mule for him. He even said it in that other interview. He was like, I had found the perfect woman for me. I didn't have to do as much. It was her
True.
expectations were low, and she felt like you were a godsend to her. So that's why you wanted to be with her, because you knew you would be able to use her as an endless source, because you didn't get all of the attention you wanted from your mommy. And because your dad wasn't around and your older brother didn't help out enough, all of the explanations that you want to come up with to basically say that her sexual assault trauma response is the reason why you had to go and cheat on her. Because to be clear, he's 30, what? He's lying about his
34.
he's lying about his age. I think he's lying about his age. I could be wrong, but I'm 35. My homeboy is 36. My homeboy went to Tuskegee with him, so that he could be telling the truth about his age, but I low-key think he's lying. I think he might be a little bit older than he's saying he is. But either way, I feel like when we were coming up in college, it was very much already a thing to be aware of sexual assault, to be aware of asking for and getting consent. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at him like, the fact that you were continuing to be aggressive with her and not paying attention to the cues and shit like that. Like, why would you never have a conversation with her? You talking like she was always doing this. So why would you never have a conversation? Instead, you go and cheat on her? Like, it just feels like bullshit. It feels like you knew what had happened on some level, but you didn't care. You still just wanted her to do what you wanted her to do, because that's what you got her for. You need to be lucky that you even with me, because look at you. He could talk about how beautiful he thinks she is and all of that, but let's be very clear. You got with her because she looked homely. You got her because you knew that other niggas wouldn't be stressing behind her, so she would be sitting at home being something you could come back to after you was out in the streets doing your bullshit. You always knew. He always knew he was gonna be able to get what he got out of her, which was her allowing him to do what he did.
I agree. I think he was planning on doing that the whole time. He says him and her said that she never exposed her assaults until 5 years later.
I was just gonna ask that, so I'm glad you said that, Jamie. I was wondering if he knew about the assault back then. But yeah, I feel like I see a lot of that activity in college. I can name at least 5 people right now who I know I went to college with, and they was single until they was married because they knew they had somebody to stick beside them. And that's really what it was given. But as far as this conversation, I saw this clip. I would say I'm interested to watch the whole video, but I'm really not. I just want to hear about how he held himself accountable for what he did, like when they were full grown adults. I feel like when you're in college, you still a kid. You still running around being trifling, and you know what you're doing, but you don't care under the excuse that you're a kid. But once you decided to marry her and actually like start a life, I just saw his chest pump in that video. Anyway, I just want to know how he held himself accountable for that. The college shit, I don't care. And then I hate how every time a man is done wrong, you always want to talk about some shit that happened when you was fucking 3 years old. Your mama stopped kissing you goodnight, so you felt like that was rejection. I really hate that the internet has given people access to like therapy talk. I know I do the shit sometimes, but I feel like on the flip side, people really weaponize that shit. And that's a little bit of what was done in the interview whenever the host kind of tied everything together in between questions from the point of where he was a kid to the point to where he cheated on her.
Narrative.
And he did not do there was no accountability that was taken in this interview. I have to listen to part 2, but there was no accountability. The only part of accountability was him saying he wants to take accountability, but not showing how that accountability was actually displayed. It seems to me he's forced to take some accountability, I suppose, by coming to the front, having to speak on this, because she kind of put it out there, and he feels like that forced him to come out and talk about it. But as far as accountability, like, he talk a good game, but he ain't really talking about shit. He keeps talking about the trauma and stuff that he dealt with childhood, his daddy not being there. But sir, you had a whole apartment downtown somewhere else, not even living in the house with your kid. So you don't think that your children are experiencing the same thing that you experienced because your daddy had to go back and be deported back to Jamaica? So you putting your kids through the same thing. The only difference is you thinking that you providing for them financially is enough because you kept seeing that your mama had to do it by herself. So that's the only thing that he was really focused on, was being, so he says, a good dad. But to him, in my opinion, a good dad is only providing the money. And a lot of men that are in that position, hey Cliff, how are you? They think like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just provide and that's just enough. And then I expect you to operate how I want you to operate or whatever. But some part of that, I do blame Danae for, because she set up the play for that to be okay, for him to continue to disrespect her, them to be together, break up, be together, and all of this other shit. Like, it's
because she felt like she was lucky too.
Yeah, I remember her
so
interview. Didn't she talk about how she used to wait at the bottom of the staircase when a girl would come down the staircase, she go
And
up
she
the
would go up.
staircase?
Yeah,
that's what she said, but he said that's not what happened. He said he don't know why she came and said that, but he said it has happened with other women. It just never happened with her. And I said, how do you know? Because if you haven't made her feel secure enough or anything, if she's seeing a woman come downstairs, you know, if she is passing somebody, she might assume that person just left your house based on the story that you have already told her. So it just, because you don't think that, but just because you think you didn't put her in that type of position doesn't mean that it didn't necessarily happen. You know what I'm saying? She probably did pass somebody maybe once or twice on the stairs after you finished with her. You said yourself you was rotating the women. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was all a cop out, and I'm tired of the people he goes to. I also think this whole born again Jesus shit, I'm sorry, it's fake and phony, and it's a slap in the face. They're all on code with let's use Jesus and God to absolve ourselves of responsibility by saying we're saved. Like that thing kept happening in the Willie Moore interview where it's like stay on code, don't, even Willie was saying how he didn't really like Derrick because Derrick was saying things that he had learned from men when he was growing up. You don't break man code. And because Derrick didn't have this experience growing up because he didn't have any man around him that taught him that, he was just telling all of the business. But I'm like, y'all are stupid because Derrick is smarter than y'all. Derrick is smarter than Willie. Let's be clear. Derrick is extremely intelligent and knows exactly what he's doing right now, even down to his posture and the muted tones, but the colors and all of that. Like he's smart down to that level. So trust me, he knew what he was getting in that crazy ass girl. He is not the unknowing victim that he's portraying himself to be. And y'all know I done told y'all already that my homeboy know him, and that's how I know how manipulative he is. Because Derrick has been like this. And I think old girl going to school with him was absolutely thinking she was that girl. That's why she always, to this day, she's constantly slut shaming other women. Because I think in her head, she thought that even though he wanted all of those, slutty looking girls, he married me. So that put her on a pedestal. And if y'all recognize, that's what niggas do. Nigga, that's where the pick-me's come from. The pedestalization of y'all willing to, self-sacrifice.
Yeah, you could be a pick-me and still be married or in a relationship. People don't. I just gotta say that because people act like they don't know. It's several.
But those of y'all that go the hardest, y'all really don't be having a man though. Just so we can point that out. Those of y'all that go the hardest, y'all don't have a man.
That's true.
He did say that like as far as like the toxic, first of all, the first thing he said in his interview, not first thing, but one of the things he said was that there was another assault that took place, another RAPE assault that took place. This wasn't the only one that happened to her. But he said he didn't find all of this out until later. But my issue with him as I listened to this, just for me, everybody's different. I just felt like he was continuing to use her situation as an excuse for why she made the relationship toxic. And that's not necessarily true. Some of that came from your actions and how you handled the relationship, which is why you got some of the person that you got, in my opinion. So I just feel like it was like a lot of fallback of, oh, she went through this, she went through that. People understand why I responded the way that I did to the relationship because of her trauma and whatever she went through. And he tried to package that nicely, but it didn't work for me. So that's just where I'm at with him. But I'll check out the next part. Anything else on Derrick and the foolishness of it all?
I might actually watch it because I'm just interested to hear what come out of his mouth.
Honestly, you
Mhm.
should, because the Willie one was some of the like, and the other dude works on my nerves. Some about him irks me, so I can't really watch him for that long.
Mhm.
But the Willie one, it was like listening to them tell on themselves. Like if you know, if you got your good ears on, they saying everything out of their mouth. It's just the way they're framing it that makes other people like see it a different way. But if you
Yeah.
listen to it, you're gonna hear all of the red flags. So I think you should just, educational purposes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Let me do some research.
You know,